August was notorious for its unpredictable storms where I lived, often filling the skies with ominous clouds that seemed to echo the restlessness inside me. My grandfather used to tell me stories about how thunderstorms could awaken spirits, unsettled souls wandering in search of what they lost. I never paid much attention to those stories, not until that night. It was a late August evening, and the sky had been threatening a storm all day. The air was thick, and the scent of rain lingered like a promise. My parents had gone out for the weekend, leaving me to watch the house. At 17, being home alone was nothing new, but that night felt different. I settled into the living room, turning on the TV for some background noise as the first drops of rain tapped against the windows. Thunder rumbled in the distance, growing closer with each passing minute. I felt a strange mix of excitement and unease, a feeling I couldn't quite shake. As the storm intensified, the power flickered, plunging the house into darkness. I cursed it under my breath and reached for my phone to use as a flashlight. The rain was coming down in sheets now, the wind howling like a distant wolf. I decided to make a cup of tea to calm my nerves and headed to the kitchen. That's when I heard a soft knock at the front door. It was almost drowned out by the storm, but it was there, unmistakable. My first thought was that it was a neighbor, but who would be out in this weather? I hesitated, the stories my grandfather told me creeping back into my mind. Another knock, more insistent this time. I forced myself to approach the door, peering through the peephole. I couldn't see much, just a shadowy figure standing on the porch, rain drenching their silhouette. "Who's there?" I called out, trying to keep my voice steady. A muffled reply came through the door. Something about needing help, needing to come inside. The voice was strange, almost distorted by the storm. Every instinct told me to keep the door locked, but I was raised to be kind, to help others in need. I cracked the door open, just enough to see who it was. The figure stepped into the light, a man soaking wet, with wild eyes that seemed to reflect the lightning outside. There was something off about him, something that made my skin crawl. "Please, I just need to make a call," he said, his voice carrying an undercurrent of desperation. I hesitated, then shook my head. "I'm sorry, but I can't let you in." The man's expression shifted, his eyes narrowing as if he was deciding something. "It's not safe out here. Let me in, or you'll regret it." The man's expression shifted, his eyes narrowing as if he was deciding something. "It's not safe out here. Let me in, or you'll regret it." The threat in his voice was unmistakable now. I slammed the door shut and locked it, backing away as the pounding on the door grew louder. My heart was racing, and I could hear the man shouting outside, his words becoming more frantic, more enraged. I grabbed my phone and ran upstairs, locking myself in the bathroom. I dialed 911, but the storm must have knocked out the cell towers, no signal. I could still hear the man downstairs, now banging on the windows, trying to find another way in. Then, as suddenly as it began, the noise stopped. I held my breath, listening intently. The only sound was the storm, relentless and unforgiving. I slowly unlocked the bathroom door, creeping back down the hallway to check on the windows. They were all intact, no sign of the man. I dared to hope he had left, but as I approached the living room, I noticed something that made my blood run cold. The back door was wide open. I stared at it, my mind racing. How had he gotten in? Was he still inside? I heard a creak behind me, and before I could react, something cold and damp grabbed my arm. I turned to see the man standing there, a twisted smile on his face. He leaned in close, his breath hot on my ear. "You should have let me in," he whispered. I tried to scream, but no sound came out. The last thing I remember was the flash of lightning illuminating his face pale, gaunt, with eyes that seemed to belong to something not quite human.